Now that NVIDIA's passed, we're pretty much going to have to wait until deep into July, I guess, for earnings. And I guess the PCE this Friday will provide a little bit of fodder. There's just not a heck of a lot of motivation out there, either positive or negative. Real struggle going on. The diamonds did their performative $40,000 success story, I guess, last week, and that's gone. They, for what it's worth, which is nothing, they managed to get it up about 40,000, hung it up for a few days, made some good headlines for USA Today, and it has just sunk since then because that's just too high. Yeah, that was that. Give them a participation trophy, but they got their 40K. Emerging markets, EEM, also red. In this instance, we had this bullish formation, and then more recently, it's been kind of breaking down. This was the peak, and then we gapped. It's a very modest gap, I confess, but we gapped down like so, and we've stayed beneath it ever since. And we've just been slowly sinking. The market is quite split. Like NVIDIA is in a class of its own. All it does is go up 10% every single day. Tech stocks continue to be somewhat buoyed by that strength, whereas other segments of the market and broader segments of the market just are not participating to the extent that you might expect. Speaking of NVIDIA, speak of the devil, there it is, green as always. This was boosted, frankly, almost as much as earnings day, if not more, by, I'm supposing, the XAI news. Now, XAI is a company rather close to my heart for reasons some of you know. They had big news this weekend that I've known about for months, information, and finally became official that they got $6 billion in funding, pre-money valuation of $18 billion, post-money of $24 billion. The assumption, it's not a bad assumption at all, is a lot of that cash is going to go straight into NVIDIA's pockets because they need compute power. It seems that's the lion's share, if not the totality, this explosive move. Green. We're getting close to $3 trillion at this point in terms of market cap for this one organization. That's flowing over to ARM Holdings. This had, past tense, a nice little top there, fell for a little while. It has eradicated all the drop and it's starting to push into this pattern here. So it is definitely not anything bearish about it anymore. Only because it's obliquely related, XAI, NVIDIA, Elon. Here's Tesla, which is not providing the excitement that XAI is in Elon's world. It hasn't done so for years now. Those Fibonacci's are doing a yeoman's job of holding things in place. It's a very, very stable critter. There's our Fib friend right there. And as you can see, we're just lingering. This dynamism, these explosive moves up and down seem to be a thing of the past. It has gotten, it's like a bouncing ball on the asphalt, just gets quieter and quieter and quieter, just kind of finally rolls along nice and steady. This one, I think, is just a good life lesson here because I've been charting for decades, and I'll often get questions from friends or acquaintances or you folks, hey, should I buy this? Should I sell that? And even though I've had to answer this question thousands of times, I haven't bothered to do a cut and paste. I write back every time just some version of, I'm sorry, I can't and I won't, because frankly, it's like all risk, no reward. I broke that rule a bit with a friend a few weeks ago, a couple months ago actually. It's like, what's a good stock to buy? And I told her, I don't normally do this, but I really like how CART looks. And this shows you why I don't like doing this kind of thing, because I told her like round about here and it did great. And she kept mentioning it. I'm like, look, this is your stock. Please just forget I had anything to do with it. And that's starting to kind of die away. This is a dynamic market. And were this my holding, I would have gotten rid of this a while ago, but I don't want to remember like, gee, I better call her up and tell her to get out of it. But it's just too much. So this anecdote is only meant to say, just because something looks bullish or bearish on a Monday, doesn't necessarily mean it will be on a Wednesday the same. And so Mabel CART is, there's nothing terrible about it. The reason for the long definitely is dissipated. This chart is interesting just because of a couple things. One, this is called Cricket. What's cool about this is there's three chart-ish phenomena that happen on this one. One of them is the breakout right here from this resistance. Just poof, up it goes, and it retraced, but it failed the retracement. So the breakout is completely invalidated at that point. These things just fell and fell and fell and fell. And what's cool about this, did it break this trend line and continue to fall, of course, because that was main support. So it fell, retraced, and continued to fall. But when it finally did bottom out and explode higher, look how high it got. It got almost to the bottom of that trend line. So this trend line, it keeps changing roles. Support slash resistance. This is the change, and the resistance again, and then down it goes, and what do you know it? There's a nice little base down there. So this chart just happens to be very chart friendly. It's doing a lot of it's having a lot of respect for the various elements that are shown here. Robinhood we've mentioned many times as a bullish idea. It's starting to look a little wobbly. It's really starting to look questionable at this horizontal. It is not having the kind of clean breakaway that you'd want to see here, and so that's not so good. It needs to show some commitment to break away from that, and it seems to be stalled out right now. And this was just a new one I'd never heard of before, but it's just a nice looking chart. This is ML, I guess, is a symbol, money lion, and this was the base down here. Had a big move higher, eased back, and as you can see here, it's a steady series of higher lows and higher highs. Might be a bit pricey now considering how big the move is, but it's one worth tracking, at least, that I'd never heard of. We talked about this last week, the point being that just because something is at the bottom of the chart doesn't mean it won't keep falling. This is Unity software, and I made mention this Head and Shoulders top, even though it's at the bottom, and sure enough, it's just still, look at this, red, just down all the way. It's the psychology is completely the converse of what you would expect from lifetime highs. These are lifetime lows, and as with lifetime highs, they tend to feed on themselves. The only difference is that with lifetime lows, there is a bottom. You cannot go below zero. And lifetime highs, as we've seen with, say, NVIDIA, guys want to try to do SPD, right? Let's see, this one looks like meth. No, it's not meth. It's MKTX. This is a new one also a friend shared with me. I'd never heard of before. Just a very big top, very impressive looking. There's actually not that many charts left out there, but I was surprised I hadn't heard of this, but this was a pretty cool one too. Just wanted to share that. This is a nice fractal. And what I mean by fractal is it's like a mirror image. Sometimes they're smaller, sometimes they're bigger. This one right here, you can see this topping pattern. Like so, this is DraftKings DKNG. Nice head, beautiful Head and Shoulders top. And if we zoom in here, this is kind of a mini-me, you know, a little miniature version. And we had a gap down this morning, and you can see like big one and little one. And I dare say that the move, you know, may not chart out this precisely, of course, but it's indicative of the kind of behavior this stock has exhibited in the past that we've completed such a pattern. What's going to come next? On the more bullish side of things, here's Kronos Group, CRON. I've mentioned this recently, and this seems to have found a nice bottom there. It seems to have found a nice base, basically at that blue line. As long as it can hold that line, it looks like a good, solid foundation. And a little less controversial product, a little older company here, HP Inc. This one continues to be a very appealing looking long-term chart. This is TLT bonds. And the point I'd made last week is related to this triangle pattern right here. The kind of foundation of all this bullishness lately, for months really, has been they're going to drop rates, they're going to drop rates, they're going to drop rates. And bonds seem to be saying not so fast. And my postulate when prices rallied to the apex of this triangle was this looks like an interesting turnaround point. And so far so good. TLT's down nicely today, about 1.5%. This does not speak well to the notion that Boy Powell is just champing at the bit to chop rates left, right, and sideways. No,